Y'all. Y'all. Come here. Let me tell you something. Episode 1, we here. So I definitely quit like 50 times, bro. I came kicking and screaming and doubting. I'm like, God, are you sure? Are you positive that you want me to do this? Because if you want me to do this, then surely you will have a stranger sneeze 3 times, but not in my direction. Blink his eyes, and on the 4th blink, he gonna trip over a rock. And then I'll know it's you, God. Just extra for no reason. And God's like, girl, if you don't get up and do what I asked you to do, so we in here. We in this thing. But anyways, I thought it would be fitting for me to just introduce myself so y'all can know who you're even listening to or watching, and really what well you're receiving out of. Testimonies can be very long-winded sometimes. In 1991, I was born. I'm not gonna tell every single situation in one episode. As we continue to grow and talk and develop together, I think, pieces of that stuff just naturally comes out. But for now, we're going to keep it basic, and I'll just share the parts that I believe is relevant to the reason for why I'm even doing a podcast in the first place. All right, here we go. My name is Kalisha Lyles. I'm 33 years old. I am first a lover of God and his disciple. Second, I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a daughter, a friend. I'm a part of a beautiful, amazing, life-changing church called Get Rap Church here in Spring, Texas. Pastors Juan and Ruthie. Can't say enough about how much they've impacted and changed my life. Grew up in a country called Belize. Oh, land of the free. Shout out. Just a little background regarding my relationship with the Lord. I remember going to this one church as a little girl. My neighbor invited me to service, and I remember being captivated by the worship. I remember being curious about how someone could sing so passionately about a God that they'd never physically seen. How they can seem so in love with a God that they've never touched physically. It just kind of threw me off a little bit, but it also intrigued me. And then I also remember they had these bomb patties after service, y'all. So I would be too excited and the first one in line waiting for these patties. The pastor was from some type of island. I'm sorry, Pastor. I don't remember what island you were from, but I just remember being so excited for midweek service because I would be looking forward to the worship and then patties. That was like basically my introduction to consistency in going to church and being a part of something, but still kind of from afar because I hadn't served or anything, hadn't like participated in any groups or anything like that aside from just going on Wednesdays. I remember just being excited to be in church. It was something that just made me feel so good. I could not explain or put words to it at the time, but it made me feel really good. So 13, my mom decides we're going to move from Belize to America for a better life. You guys know the American dream. You look at America like this is the place you want to be. This is the land of opportunity, which it is. And you're so excited to move out of your country where you know what it feels like to lack and into a country that promises abundance. And so we came from Belize to America, and I remember we moved straight to Compton. And it was such a culture shock for me because there was a lot that happened. Going to middle school and then high school, a lot of rejection, a lot of teasing, all of the things that a teenage girl would feel, especially in a big transition like that. And so I remember just getting to the point where I was angry. I couldn't really vocalize why I was angry because here I was living this dream that people are in my country wishing that they would be able to move to the States. And here I was feeling like the dream was kind of a lie because this was not what was promoted. Where's the happily ever after? We ended up moving from Compton to Los Angeles, and we went to Dorsey High School and met some other Belizeans. And I was like, yo, we out here. The rebellion still continued. I remember ditching school. I remember going to boys' houses. I remember doing everything that the teenage girl that doesn't know the Lord intimately does. But there was one interesting thing. Whatever was planted in Belize, whenever I would go to that midweek service, whatever was planted there still was in me, because it didn't matter where we moved to, I would always be looking for a church that's like nearby. Where's the closest church? I just want to be in the building. Even in my rebellion, I would still look for church. So I remember finding this little church. It was a little Baptist church, and I'm so upset that I don't remember the name. And I don't want to butcher it, so I'm not even going to try to guess. But I ended up singing in the worship team. Miss Carmen, shout out to all the crew. Those were good times. One Sunday, we visited another church, and we were like their guest singers. And so we sang, and the whole service happened. And towards the end, of course, they do an altar call. And I don't believe that I even went up to the altar. I think I was just standing close to the front. And I remember this older woman coming up to me, and she said, you know what's crazy? Before I tell you what she said, if I saw this woman today, it would be like Keke Palmer. I would be like, I've never seen this woman a day in my life. I don't remember what she looks like, but I'll never forget what she said. She said, that man that you're with is going to hurt you so bad that all you're going to be asking the Lord is why. And at that time, nobody knew. I had started a relationship at 15 with someone that was 10 years older than me. And it was just this big secret. But when she told me that, I definitely was like, okay, there's no way she could know that. But of course, at 15, common sense is a foreign language. You would think I would take heed to what was clearly a word from God, because how could she know this? I was visiting the church. I didn't even, that wasn't my home church. It was just a church we were visiting. We were guests. We sang for them, and that was it. So instead of taking heed to the warning, I said, you know what? I'm here singing in this choir, and I know that I'm doing things that I'm not supposed to do. And I can't be a hypocrite. So I'm going to have to choose. And I'm like, God, if this relationship is going to cause me to go to hell, then I guess I'm going to go to hell. And that might sound crazy, but for me, it wasn't in that moment, because my thought process was, God, you can't take this from me. Here this man is. He's the only man that I've heard tell me that I'm beautiful. He's the only man that I've heard tell me that I'm wanted, that he's pursuing me, that he wants this relationship. And so I didn't want to let that go. I couldn't let that go. I know a little bit about your love, God, but here this love is that's tangible. I could touch it. I could feel it. He's real. And you can't ask me to let this go. If this is going to cause me to go to hell, then I guess I'm going to go to hell. So I made my decision. I chose the relationship, and I stopped going to church. A lot of things happened in that relationship. It was a very, very toxic relationship on both ends. There was physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse. I had 3 abortions. There was a lot. There's one time that sticks out in particular. I would blow up his phone if I felt like he was ignoring me or not answering me, or mad, or whatever the situation was. I honestly don't even remember why I was blowing up his phone on this particular day. I remember sitting in the bed, and I just started crying. I'm like, Lord, why? Why am I going through this? And Instantly, I remembered that lady. I remembered her words. You're going to be so hurt in this relationship that all you're going to be able to do is ask God why. And I remember feeling like, well, you made your bed and now you have to lie in it. This is the situation you chose. So now you have to live with it. And I think some of that was definitely just embarrassment, pride, not wanting to be wrong. So just staying longer than I should have. I stayed in that relationship from the age of 15 until between 20 and 21. That's when it kind of started getting a little back and forth. We're together, we're not together. This is crazy. You're crazy. We're both crazy. You start getting to the point where it's just like, okay, Stevie Wonder could see, baby. Stevie Wonder could see. This ain't it. I ended up getting an opportunity to move from California to Seattle to do some marketing. And I firmly believe, this is the crazy part, I firmly believe that was the Lord's doing, moving me out of California, because if I had not moved, there would be no refined intimacy, anything. Okay, I know for a fact that if I had remained in the environment that I was in, my life would not be any different than it was back then. And so I ended up moving. I stayed there, I don't know, 6 months maybe. Can't remember exactly the time period, but I stayed for some months. And then I got an opportunity to move from Seattle to Houston. I would be able to basically do my own thing, start my own business, doing the same thing. And I was so excited because I was actually pretty good at it. I was the person in the stores like, hey, who do you have for cable? Hey, the government's giving away cell phones. Just selling things. I was so excited, and also I was so big-headed, y'all. I'm like, hard work did this for sure. I'm a hard worker. I'm on my entrepreneur tip. I'm calling my mom. I'm telling her, I'm going to buy you a house one day. This opportunity is going to change all of our lives, because I had seen it genuinely change the lives of my mentors. And so why wouldn't it be the same for me? Y'all, I moved to Houston and fell on my face hard. I fell on my face so hard, y'all. When your pride causes you to fall, it's the hardest hit. My light just died. It's the hardest hit because now you're faced with the fact that you don't know what you're doing. Actually, you have no idea what you're doing. I was in my apartment one evening, actually one night, and I couldn't pay the electricity, so they had turned off the electricity. I was without electricity for like 2 weeks in this apartment. And I remember sitting on the couch and I said, well, I guess I don't know what I'm doing, God. Just like that. I guess. Girl, what is you guessing? Look around. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. So I said, I need your help. I need your help, God. And the crazy part about that was, did he ride in on the white chariot and take all my troubles away the next day? Nope, he did not. Because there were some things inside of me that he wanted to refine. There was some work to be done. And I couldn't skip the process. I couldn't skip the refining. And so I went through a lot of hard things, y'all. I was homeless for a while, sleeping in my car. My boss at the time, because what happened was the business that I started failed, and I ended up having to move to San Antonio and work under another owner. So I had a boss again. And I remember him finding out that I was homeless, and he's like, yo, why are you not saying anything? And I'm like, he ended up getting me a room. So I was able to like stay in a hotel for like, I think he paid for it for like 3 months or something, maybe even more. And I was working and working and working. I'm like, I'm going to get myself back up to ownership. I'm going to do this all over again. Hard work is going to do this. And then I was sprinkling a little Jesus on it this time. So for sure it was going to work. He said, nope. No matter what I did, what campaign I tried, what new product there was, nothing worked. It just didn't. At that time, my mom and everybody had came, and even that was a crazy situation because they moved into the apartment that I had in Houston. That was just like a 2-bedroom apartment, and it's my mom and all my siblings in this one apartment. Mom quits her job in LA to move to Houston because I'm pursuing this dream, and she comes and I don't have much for her. It was a really, really hard time. But it was in those times that I experienced intimacy with God. It was in those times that I grew in the Lord. It was the craziest thing because there was a part of me, especially in the beginning, I'm like, Lord, I gave you my life now. I'm giving you a real shot at having all of me. Fix it. Why aren't you fixing it? And I remember so gently him saying, I'm more interested in refining you than fixing your situation. Because if I fix the situation without refining you, what's the point? And so I remember just being okay in the process of suffering, through the process of refining, because I understood that he had a goal. And so that brings us to the reason for this podcast being called Refined Intimacy. Because for me personally, I had to go through that process of being refined. And the thing about that is, it's a process that doesn't stop. I'm still going through a refining now in my life. I would love to share what he's taught me so far on my journey. And I would love to share what he's teaching me in the now and what he's showing me for the future. That's the reason for this podcast. I'm not trying to have 1 billion followers or get 1 billion subscriptions and people seeing me or liking me. Honestly, my goal is that as you watch this podcast, that you would have such an urgency to just go be intimate with God that you would be turning this podcast off to go be with him. That is my goal. No, that might sound crazy, but that's my goal. I want you to want God so much because of something that you hear here or see here, that your desire to hear his voice is greater than your desire to hear my voice or any other voice. What else did I want to say, Holy Spirit? This is my closet, y'all. We're in my closet. This is my secret place with the Lord. Well, was until he asked me to share it with y'all. I'm not going to lie, I didn't want to at first. Because I'm like, no, Lord, this is ours. I don't want it to be common. I don't want everyone to see it. But I believe that he wanted me to show it and even to record from here so you would be inspired to create a space for you in the Lord. There's something that happens when you intentionally make room for God, whether that be in your closet, at your desk at work, in your car, in an area in the kitchen counter. I don't know what that looks like for you, but I will say that there is something so incredibly intimate about creating that space just for you and God that's consecrated and set apart for you to meet with him. Anyways, that's all.